All right, Chelsea fans, welcome back to another episode. That's right, London is Blue podcast. Hopefully your favorite Chelsea podcast out there and a part of the Men in Blazers Media Network. Dan and Nick here, and we are going to be talking through, dissecting, examining Chelsea's mauling. I don't even know what word or adjective you would prefer to use, Nick, to talk about the 6-2 victory over Wolves. We went to their house, we went to their shitty city, and we walked away with 3 points, bragging rights, and a whole lot of moments that we're going to have an opportunity to break down in this episode.
Yeah, what an unexpected result, especially kind of after the Servette game on Thursday. I was in the Ozarks this weekend, hence the mustache, which now has to stay. That's the rules, right? And I woke up this morning a little hungover, and then quickly got the juice required to do a job today. And yeah, what a crazy, chaotic, intense game this was across the board. And it kind of felt like this was we have one of these like sorts of teams that we play every season that's like unexpectedly intense, and West Ham has been that in the past. And, we've had, back in Mourinho days, Bournemouths of the world and that sort of thing. Old Wolves this may have been the start of something a little bit more than just a regular Premier League match between these two teams, Dan.
Well, when you think about last season, Chelsea lost both of their fixtures against Wolves. One was the pre-Boxing Day, Christmas Eve fixture, a 2-1 absolutely coal in the stocking moment for Chelsea. And then it was a 4-2 loss in early February. This also represents the first time that Chelsea have won away at Wolves since the 14th of September, 2019, which was a 5-2 victory. So shades of that one in this match, but plenty of opportunity to enjoy, to feel, to vibe. I mean, I think I just walk away being generally impressed, generally excited, feeling good that it really had a first half that was kind of forgettable. I mean, there were a great start with a Nico goal. I mean, the Cole second goal was insane. I think the commentators are absolutely right. Like, it will be in a conversation for goal of the season, well into late season. Again, we've got 36 more games to play. So, I mean, there's an opportunity for Cole to, improve upon his first effort for it, I'm sure. But then, it was really, that 45 minutes was kind of chaotic, getting to the second half, and really everything changed for Chelsea. And so, I mean, I'm just generally, excited, happy, want to talk about how many good performances there were, particularly in that second half. I think there's managerial praise with Maresca for making some adjustments, changing the system, pulling off players that weren't working. The players who did perform, particularly Noni Madueke, has to get tons of credit and praise for what he did in that second half. And then I think there's still some open questions about like things that we want to see. 2 more matches now before international break. We've got Servette coming up on the second leg, and then you also have Crystal Palace before, again, an international break either kills the momentum or the excitement or gives us an opportunity to have some rest and respite from poor Chelsea performances. I think it might be more the former this time. And then I think we also want to break down just where a couple of those incoming and outgoings are at the moment, with Chelsea still tons of business to do, tons of players to move. Not the 45 people keep on banding about in the media, but probably about a good 5 to 7 players that need to have a solution between now and the 30th of August. But before we do that, we just always want to give the people an opportunity to give their opinion on what they think happened in the match. And that is our patented 3-word match review. Nick, where were the people at today? Because I counted, there were about 400 people who gave a 3-word match review to us across all platforms. And that is exciting. That's something something went really good.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think just before I dive in, like, it's really nice to have a good result to talk about. It's been quite some time, and I think the preseason was tough, and, the vibes were pretty shaky during the entire summer for all the reasons that we know, but, great result. So let's have some fun with this. Chelsea FC and USA, friends of the pod. Boring Chelsea. Love it. Lots of cheek in there today. Lots of cheeky responses. Joel with a wonderful graphic included. So you're always going to make it if this is the case. If you're testing out those Photoshop skills and want to put those into the 3-word match review as a little sneaky bonus, go ahead and do that. Joel with Icy Hot Blues with Cole on the icy and Noni on the hot, referencing the interview after the match. That's very, very good. J-Dubs with more like Mullen Ew. Excellent. Childish Gambino, not to be confused with Donald Glover. Noni's TripAdvisor triple. We're using TripAdvisor as one word. You're testing the limits here, my friend. I'm
pretty sure the brand name is one word. So just to be fair, that's fantastic.
Just testing it. It's all good today. Mr. Thurman with Room for Attacktivities, with the, of course, wonderful Step Brothers reference there. Megan with Halftime Changes. Yes, changes are being made, and we're going to talk about that later. That's excellent. Darth Texan with finally fantastic finishing with the finish him gif. Wonderful. And then, yes, as referenced, Carefree Tosser with the mustache stays. I made this facial hair decision for an Ozarks trip, and they came out today and made sure that I'm going to keep this on my face for the foreseeable future. So thank you to Noni Madueke and the entire team. You guys are going to be blessed with this stash for the foreseeable future. Dan, over to you.
Look, I went with announcing our intent. Are Chelsea back? Is a title challenge potentially on? Why not us? Look, you got to just lean in as hard as possible to the positivity, to the chaos, to the opportunity. And anytime you're scoring 6 goals on an established Premier League side, look, if you're putting up 6 on a newly promoted team, a potential relegation fodder side, doesn't always feel as good. But again, this is a team that got us twice last season, 0 points picked up against Wolves, and now you're already in the +3 column with +6 goals in the 4 column for you. You have to say, this feels good, and this is, I don't know, maybe it's early to say it. I think we're just putting it out there. We're saying, hey, you know what? Everyone who's saying, everyone who's printing, everyone who's reporting that this is a club in chaos. Yes, that might be. But chaos is where Chelsea thrives. Let's go.
Chaos is a ladder, Dan. Someone said that one time, I think. Mine was Noni Walks Talk. He backed it up. Look, do I think the young man made an inadvised social media post? I do.
Well, reference what it is, because for anyone who maybe doesn't live on social media, who's coming to it late, who's wondering why Madueke got booed at the beginning, just give the context for why this thing became a storyline.
So he posted on Instagram. So this was a double whammy yesterday. He posts on Instagram, everything about this place is shit, with the location tag on Instagram stories. He then comes back and says, oh man, I posted that to the wrong account, making sure that we all know now that he has a fucking burner account out there. And so we're all going to be looking for maybe the right burner account. Look, it's an inadvised social media post, right? I think he said as much. I think he did a very nice apology after the game. And I think he's like, hey man, people make mistakes. I apologize. I think we're all past that now. But he had a lot of pressure on him in this game, right? He doesn't start against City. He only gets a handful of minutes against Servette. Rumors of him potentially leaving the club in the transfer window if the right offer comes in. All of these things. And he backed it the fuck up today. He was by far the best player, and that's including one Cole Palmer who had an excellent game. He was on it from minute one, showing a very similar path to what he did in preseason and against Servette in that little cameo. So he walked the talk, and I'm really proud of him for that.
Yeah, it was quite the moment. The goal celebrations across all of the goals today were fantastic. We'll talk about those probably in Shithouse moment of the match. But before we do that, we just want to, again, always say thank you to everybody who supports the podcast, leaves wonderful reviews on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. 5 stars. It's the only one to do. If you're doing anything less,
it helps.
Let us know why it would be a 4-star, and we'll try to fix it. But let's shoot for 5. You also can subscribe on YouTube as well. Look, 50 50% of you watch a video and you're not subscribed. You should try to fix that, because we're doing the Lord's work out here. We're trying to put a little bit of positivity back into the Chelsea community. You also can sign up for our free weekly newsletter to London's Blue Dispatch. You can also join us in our Discord community, which is a free or paid version. But let's get into the match details again. It was against Wolves this past Sunday, August 25th, in the Premier League at the Mall U Stadium. With Wolves 2, Chelsea 6. Nico Jackson got it started in 2 minutes into the match, 98 seconds. One of our fastest goals since Alvaro Morata scored for us, which is crazy. Cunha was able, though, in the 27th minute to score. In the 45th minute, Cole Palmer with a Nico Jackson assist gets us ahead once again, but Larson was there and lingering in the 45th +6, and he put it all level. But boy, oh boy, did the script absolutely flip in the second half, because it was Noni Madueke with a Palmer assist in the 49th, 58th, and 63rd minute of the match. And the icing on the cake was Joao Felix in a substitute appearance, his second debut for Chelsea, this time as a permanent player, with Pedro Neto laying up the assist in the 80th minute. And boy, oh boy, the goals were great. Was there a favorite goal that you had of this mix? Because I feel like there's a lot of good ones to pick from.
I mean, it's Palmer's goal. I mean, let's just be real about it. It's a wonderful bit of smart play from Sanchez, an excellent little deft touch assist from Nico Jackson, and a smart finish from Cole Palmer, who, again, has a lot to do left there, but he sees the goalkeeper off his line. He sees the chip is available. If you think back to Everton last year at home, where we also scored 6 goals, he had that wonderful lob chip in that game as well. This one was a harder finish for sure. And he finished it with aplomb. And again, credit to the TV commentators that we had in the States today, because they were by far the best TV commentators we've had in some time. They were gushing over this, and it was correct. It was by far the best goal.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, if any neutral was watching, they tuned in and they got a fantastic match to watch. I mean, for the first half, you were a Chelsea fan, you kind of hated yourself. If you're a Wolves fan, you were excited about the fact that you worked your way back into the match. And then I think you were just feeling levels of increasing amount of dread throughout the entirety of the second half as a Wolves supporter would be my guess. Thank you to our wonderful friends on the Wolves podcast that joined us too and did a wonderful little pre-match for you. Did not go the way anybody planned, you or Wolves Dan, in your conversation, but we've got a second match to play.
Shouts to Wolfpack, WWFC. That was a fun little preview back and forth. We'll try and get a little bit more insight as we move through the season with some other content creators. But yeah, we have Wolves Dan and we have regular Dan. And regular Dan, you and I are feeling much better than Wolves Dan today.
That is true. Just for your reminder, the starting lineup did have Robert Sanchez between the sticks. It was Malo Gusto, Wes Fofana, Levi Colwell, Mark Cucurella as your defense, with Enzo Fernandez and Moises Caicedo in the midfield. And it was an attacking 4. Mykhailo Mudryk, Cole Palmer, Noni Madueke, and Nico Jackson to start. And again, all 5 subs used. We appreciate it, Enzo Maresca. Thank you so much. It was Mykhailo Mudryk who came off first, though, with Pedro Neto coming back on. And then in the 68th minute, Joao Felix comes on for Nico Jackson. You saw the 76th minute, Dewsbury Hall comes in for Moises Caicedo, and then it was Vega and Nkunku who came in for Cucurella and Palmer in the 82nd minute. Tosin, Badiashile, Guiu, and Jorgensen were the unused subs in this match. And then just maybe some high-level stats. The XG one, I think, is the craziest one, Nick. When you look at the XG for Wolves, 1.96 to Chelsea with 1.68. I mean, that is some incredible finishing quality. Again, both teams had 5 big chances, and Chelsea absolutely knocked it out of the park with the conversion today.
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting to see that number because, again, I don't think, maybe they're giving a lot of credit to the angle of the Madueke chances going in, that it's not a traditionally easy angle to hit, but or that he's usually that good on his right foot. Maybe there's a little bias built in there, but no, I mean, it's how many times have we said over the last 10 years, God, if we can only finish our chances. We finished our chances today. We could have finished more. There were 3-4 more goals out there for us. tons of breakaways. Game got really sloppy and loose in the second half. And I think, in a game where you're losing by 4 goals, the opposition kind of slowed down a little bit. But there were plenty of big chances in this game. And Chelsea had, for my money, the lion's share of them in the second half.
Yeah, the 3 cards for us to their 2. The officiating was terrible throughout the entire day. But again, we're not going to let it rain on our parade. The one random stat from Opta Joe 6, Enzo Maresca is the first manager in Premier League history to see his team score 6 goals in his first away game in the competition. Elation. I think, Nick, you highlighted that this is actually probably his best Premier League victory as a manager of all time.
Yeah, I was hungover this morning, and I thought, a little fun. We're going to have a little fun with this one. And it got some pickup. Everyone seemed to really enjoy that little tweet I put out there. But I would also say the other random stat is Cole Palmer's the first Chelsea player to finish with 3 assists in a match since Cesc Fabregas in April of 2016. So if you think about that, and you think about that season and what happened there, but he's unbelievable, man. He already has 4 goal contributions on the year. He's just a stud.
Nick, I have to turn it over to you now. The shithouse moment of the match. I mean, I feel like the Instagram story is a pre-match element. You could marry it with the Noni Madueke hat trick to give that the shithouse moment of the match. But is there anything else that comes to mind?
So I think Noni gets his own award today. I think there's a Noni award that we will bestow on him for the shenanigans. I think particularly the first goal celebration where he jumps the barrier and goes over to the Chelsea fans and is talking that shit, as the kids would say, was really good. I would also say after the first goal was scored, there was something said between these players, and I think Nico Jackson sneakily got involved in some of that, and he obviously got the goal, and him and Cunha were just nonstop at each other the entire match. And I think there's a little extras there, so I'm going to give Nico an award here. And then my last one is Cucurella, who after Moises Caicedo was barreled into multiple times in this match, by the way. Caicedo was just battered in this game. Cucurella ran straight up and asked the referee to go review it for a red card, which pissed everybody off and got everyone in a tizzy. And there's this great shot of West Fofana coming over and fake holding Cucurella back with the biggest smile on his face.
Hold me back! Hold me back!
It was hilarious. And I was like, oh man, they're working on something here. There was a lot of dark arts in this game from both teams, to be fair, but I really think we have multiple instances of shithouse, Dan. You feel good about that game.
I'm surprised that the Petro Neto wheelbarrow type of goal celebration did not enter the moment there. I mean, look, I know when you score against your former team, you're not supposed to join in the celebrations. He only assisted, so I feel like he has full license to be excited and get involved, particularly when it's a little Portuguese connection there between, or as they were calling it, Netflix on the club account later with Neto and Joao Felix. It's a hard one. It's a hard sell.
Do we like that? I don't particularly love it. We'll
workshop it for him and we'll figure out the true answer. But anyway, that would be my submission, but I think all those ones are great. We're going to take a first ad break. When we get back, we're going to talk about all of the moments, all of the players that deserve tons of praise and recognition, Noni Madueke, Cole Palmer, and others. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. I think we just have to go through the players, Nick, because there's so many good things that we could say about so many of these players. But I think you put it out rightly. Noni Madueke was the star of the day. And to be a star on a day where Cole Palmer is also absolutely shredding it up, that takes a very special performance, maybe his best Premier League performance ever, and will be very, very hard for him to top as a player for some time. If he can, phenomenal for us. But just in general, thoughts, feelings about this performance of Noni Madueke, and I think also how this changes his trajectory as being a core part of what this side needs, what Maresca needs, and how Chelsea should not consider letting him go at any point in the near future.
Yeah, we'll take the match first, then we can talk about the implications. I think for the match, It was very clear out of the gate that he was fired up for this. It was very clear that the villain arc that he embarked upon before this was a very good thing for him. And again, you've seen plenty of instances of players entering a villain era that have made them successful players. And, I think that may be a switch for him to flip occasionally in his career. He's such like an affable dude and such a charming guy that I didn't know he really had that dog in him, but apparently he has that dog in him. And I really appreciated that. From the off, it was very clear that he had one objective in mind, and that was to absolutely embarrass Ait Nori. Like that, it was men against boys out there in terms of the ability for Ait Nori to even keep up with him. He's absolutely best way to put this is flexed on him a ton with his ball control, with his dribbling, with his speed, with his movement off the ball. That improves so dramatically from where he's been in the past. His connection with Cole Palmer obviously is good from their time in the England internationals together, the under 21 internationals. All these sorts of things really came into play. The goals are great, right? And if you reflect back to all the chatter we had at preseason, where he was still a standout player in preseason, and it was pretty bad preseason, to be honest. All I wanted him to do was slow down a little bit, make good decisions, right? Slow down, make good decisions. You're too hyped. You're making bad decisions. You're not giving yourself time on the ball. You're not doing the right things. He slowed down today. He did it quickly, right? He still moved at pace. He still did things that were really incisive. But when the moment came for him to shoot on goal, right? Bam, bam, bam. 14-minute hat trick. And this is in addition to, the goals are one thing, but I think everyone in their mother called out the thing that happened in the 93rd minute, which is terrible giveaway from Malagusto. Noni Madueke sprints 80 yards back and makes up that ground. The Chelsea fans erupted at that effort. This is the beginning, I think, of a shift in how we think about this player, right? I think every player has this breakthrough moment. I think this is his breakthrough moment. I think it's that serious of a game. And if he can consistently apply himself in this way with this group of talent around him, which is, especially in the attacking phase, still pretty good.
Yeah.
Then we have something here. And he took his shot. And I think that needs to be, counted for something. So I'll let you jump into the implications, Dan, but I just, on this performance today, I'm just fucking proud of him, to be honest. We've seen him grow a ton in just under 2 years. And you could see the beginnings of someone go to a different level.
Well, and we wanted to see players who back themselves, who are willing to work through the tough moments to show grit and intensity within the face of adversity. And this is a player who, for the majority of the first 2/3 of Poch's tenure, really struggled to get included. When he got included at the end of last season, was showing some real bright signs about what he could do, how he could be involved. Strong preseason, strong contributions there. And then to hear his name as one of the linked with an outbound move, particularly as we watched other players, Raheem Sterling, Kylo Mudryk, struggle to have consistency. One, maybe at the further end of his Premier League career, probably getting closer to the end of that. One at the very early, much like Madueke, at the early end of their Premier League career, but struggling to find that same level of consistency. It was very clear Madueke was, of those three, the number one best choice to remain at Chelsea, and seemingly felt like he was going to be a casualty to the PSR calculations, because likely could turn a profit pretty easily on the books for him. And it feels like, and there was some reporting from Fabrizio Romano and others, that based upon this performance and what Enzo Maresca has said, that this seemingly has made it that Noni Madueke will not leave. I think it makes it more now prevalent that we'll talk about this later, that Raheem Sterling needs to go, that maybe you should try to find a loan from Kylo Mudryk, because you're getting to the point now where you've brought in Joao Felix, you have Pedro Neto, you have Cole Palmer. You are starting to build out an attacking grouping that's kind of exciting. and did a lot today to show you why you should be excited. And I think when you look at some of his stats individually, he had 5 shots on target in the day, Noni Madueke, only 1 off target. I mean, he ended up with 3 goals. He had a 0.58 expected goal. His expected assists were 0.11. And he showed off that he has
right foot.
The right foot is the big thing.
Yeah.
Look, I think that, we saw him struggle last season playing on the right, where you'd always have to move the ball onto his left and find a way to cut in then to make the shot at a different angle. And now he's able to carry the ball forward to cut in incisively and take the shot with the right foot. It's fantastic. It's completely changed and improved his game and makes it where I think it's going to be hard to think about who takes over on the right, particularly if you're going to allow Cole to sit in a more central position behind Nico Jackson, behind maybe a Joao Felix, behind a Christopher Nkunku, because he looked really good in that free roll today too. And we should talk about just how impressive Cole was in that regard, given a little more license to roam, a little bit more license to pull up, even kind of, when you look at the pass map, effectively it was like a flat 4 like for our attackers, which was fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked a lot about where Cole ends up in this lineup, and this was a much more structurally, it was much more of a 4-2-3-1 with Enzo advancing much further of the 2 midfielders, and either one of the fullbacks kind of filling the void left and behind. It was kind of how it's set up. We'll talk about the merits of that later as we get through this, but you don't have to wonder about where Cole fits in this equation. He fits right there. That's where he fits. And it took him like a good, I think, 25, 30 minutes to really get in the game. Like, I don't think his early stuff was really that impressive. But, man, when he switched it on, and I think he switched it on after he got carded for dissent. And, by the way, he was fucking right about that. Like,
he also took that card to protect our guy Gusto.
Yep.
That was very, very intelligent move from Cole Palmer to say, you know what, this is potentially a very tricky situation. It was another foul from, regardless of how bad the officiating was, it was a foul by Gusto already riding the yellow and could have gone to a bad position, and Cole rightfully got involved. And, sorry for FPL owners, but in general, the right thing for Chelsea fans to see, again, another player step up, little dark arts, and kind of move it along.
Yeah, I mean, it's super smart. But it was like that minute, right, where it was like, all right, we're done fucking around here. Like, we're we're gonna take this thing and move it into the stratosphere. Then the goal happens, right, which is insane. And then he just, I mean, if you go, I watched this match twice. I watched it live and then I rewatched it to make sure I saw what I was seeing live. Like, how he occupies space and the attention of 2 or 3 defenders at one time is just magnificent. I mean, it is truly impossible to think of anyone else doing that role in the way that he's doing it. The backheel flicks, the little interchanges, of course, the assists where he waits for the perfect moment each time. And credit to Noni for staying on side when he, we've seen Chelsea players not do that before, right? It was perfectly in sync. He had a phenomenal game. 4 goal contributions. Didn't even have a fucking preseason. I mean, the kid is just unbelievable, Dan.
Yeah, he had 1 shot on target, 2 off target, 2 blocked, hit the woodwork 1 time. He had the 1 goal on a 0.67 expected goal, 3 assists. His expected assist, 0.15. Again, the math is not effectively mathing today, but that's okay. And yeah, just in general, really, really positive performance from him. Very, very exciting. I do want to talk about Maresca and the halftime changes, what he kind of did there, and also give some additional praise to a few more players. But we're going to take our last ad break when we get back, and we will do all of that. So stay tuned. All right, Nick. Again, Megan had it as a 3-word match review in the beginning, but halftime changes with a bunch of question marks and exclamation points. Enzo Maresca, very comfortable, apparently, making the halftime switch. He was willing to say, you know what, Mykhailo Mudryk was not getting it done for us on the day. It makes the switch there. And then also decides not to fully invert as much in the second half as he was willing to in the first. So I think in general, we saw a lot of performances last season where Chelsea went down, where we saw wins become draws, draws become losses. And this was another situation where we could have stumbled and bumbled our way to like a 3-3 or 4-4 draw that we all would have been really pissed about. And Maresca made some very positive changes in this match, both in using all the subs, getting the right players on, and making changes to how the play was progressing that produced and put the players in an environment where they could be successful. And maybe just any thoughts you had on that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to unpack there. This was not a Maresca ball game. It was a very open transitional game, right? Where we saw, the continuation of some of the long passing that we saw last weekend against Manchester City. We saw a ton of breakaways and some of them very clinical breakaways, some of them with some really neat interchange, some of them a little sloppier. I think your point about not inverting as much is critical. I think Malo Gusto in particular really struggled in that regard today, and I think got caught out multiple times on a day where Moises Caicedo also wasn't his best either, I think, to be fair. So there were issues in the first half. Set pieces defensively are still a huge issue, right? But I think where I saw some changes, obviously the personnel change is a big one, right? Pedro Neto getting 45 more minutes after Enzo, Maresca, I should say, said that he needs time to build back up to full fitness as well. So I think there's some really great team management happening here, right? To get players the minutes they need without putting them into the red zone. But I also saw a big change for what Enzo Fernandez was doing in the second half. Enzo, I think, and I've been critical of the way that he has done this in the past, but I do want to give him credit. And it might be because the game was kind of gone in the second half and it was just really loose. But I saw him step up and fill a lot of defensive gaps in a more advanced role, but not in that 10 role where he was, kind of leading the press. I saw the press in general work as a unit, especially, kind of the flat front four, as you mentioned earlier. And I just saw a team look a little bit more committed to the idea of what they wanted to do. And you think about, the 3 goals that Noni scores, I believe all 3 of them come after a press interception transition, right? That is a huge fucking deal, because if the team sees the rewards of the pressing and they can, make it a part of their psyche that this is going to be something we're going to sacrifice and we're going to, suffer because we're going to press and we're going to win the ball back and we're going to have some easy chances. That's a motivating thing, right? And so all of these factors in play, and I know I just went through a lot from what I was able to see, all of these factors tell me that this is not, hopefully, the same Maresca ball that he played at Leicester, right? Mm-hmm. That he is doing the thing that all coaches have to do, which is maximize the talent that they have within their squad. And Pochettino tapped into something last year that our squad loves chaos ball. They do. And frankly, I love it too. Like, I'll be honest, I much prefer this than a Manchester City 1-0 win where they just kind of pass the ball around for 80 minutes of the 90. Like, this is fun. This was intense. There was a lot going on, and it was sloppy as hell at sometimes defensively, but a little bit of Maresca ball mixed with some chaos ball. Now we're talking. Now I'm interested.
So I think a couple of other players maybe to chat through and just their performance on the day. I think we talked about Nico Jackson. I think we could talk about Pedro Neto and the Joao Felix cameo. I think we could talk about Levi Colwell as some who I would want to say had positive contributions. Again, I think a lot of the positive contributions came more in the second half than the first half. I think yes. Levi had a really good second half. I think when you look at some of his contributions, you look at the fact that he had the most progressive passes completed, 9. Cucurella had 7. Palmer had 7. That was 9 off of 10 attempted. I mean, I think in general, he had extremely good distribution on the day and kind of came up with some really big boy blocks to ensure that, again, because it was very open, even down to the end of the game. Like there was a lot of movement of the ball up and down the entirety of the pitch, and he was coming up good in those scenarios. I know he's not perfect. Like I know that we're still watching a player who's developing, a player who is not yet, I would say like the locked starter, and potentially would not start in some other Premier League teams with maybe more established center backs. But in general, I'm liking what I'm seeing in terms of his progression, in terms of his improvement, in terms of his involvement. I mean, I think he's probably working himself into I am the best of the available Chelsea center backs, or at least the Chelsea center backs being considered for a starting job here, which is, again, we went from having to rely upon Thiago Silva, who's really helping Fluminense at the moment in terms of their movement out of the relegation zone, to now having a kind of core grouping that's a really young and inexperienced, like Premier League grouping from a defensive standpoint. And I just, on the day, his second half gave me a lot of things to say. I'm excited for, I think, where he can go this season in his own development, and then also for us.
Yeah, I'd second that. I think he had a pretty decent day. I think Nico's an interesting shout. I don't know if he was like the best Nico we've ever seen, but a goal and an assist. You don't have to be great as a striker if those numbers are rolling in. It was
interesting to me.
It's a weird day. I mean, it was a weird day for him, right? Like, I don't know.
I'm so mystified because I think you're right. Like there are points where he just didn't seem to be involved, like the thumbprints weren't being placed on the match, like the crime, there'd be no DNA evidence in the crime scene to place him there. But in general, like found himself at the right moments to contribute, which was nice. And again, all he needs to do is continue the average, right? Like if he can continue to do what he did last season with, oh, hey, I have 1 to 2 goal contributions here, every 0.590s. I'm getting one or the other every single game. Like that is every other game. That's really good. That is a really good place for him to be, and puts him on trajectory to have like a really strong second season, which I think is always the concern, right? Like there's a little bit of the like, hey, can your sophomore season be as good as your freshman season? Like it's going to be really challenging for Cole Palmer to maybe hit the goal volume, but I mean, like you get three assists and a goal on a day like this, like you're at least, putting yourself in the position to say from a total goal plus assist contribution, I can maybe match my tally from last year. Penalties excluded. I think it's always hard to bank on that one.
What I like about, especially Nico in the system though, is the interchange. Yeah. I think there were some moments where you started to see the sparks come back from last season a little bit. So I was fine with that. I think Neto and Felix will figure out as we go forward. I don't think either one were particularly brilliant. And I think, the goal is great. That's a great moment for both of them. I don't know if the rest of the play was tremendous. I think it was fine. The other one I'd want to call out, and I already did this, is Cucurella. I thought had a really strong game, showed some leadership, showed some character. And then I think Sanchez had a pretty decent day too. Not because, giving up 2 goals is great, but the goals that were given up were defensive errors before he should have ever been involved in the play. And he also had a pretty good pre-assist on the long ball. So, I think there were some good performances. I think there were some ones, obviously, as we move into the next section that were not so great. And just Mudryk, we don't have to like bury this guy, but like it was pretty bad. It was pretty clear that he was not on the same level as Palmer or Madueke, and that Madueke of the two that were signed in that window together is just simply the better player. This is kind of we're at a point where you can't really dispute it anymore, and I think for him in his future, a really good loan with the opportunity to play a whole lot of minutes to develop and continue that development at a high level is absolutely required. And it may be embarrassing for the club. It may be embarrassing for the people who signed him. It may be embarrassing for him. But long term, Maresca has been pretty clear multiple times now that he hasn't delivered what he wanted and that they're going to have to work with him. And minutes just, there isn't time to get a 10-game stretch like he had last season and continue to make mistakes without there being some sort of like fix there. And that's just because we're in the big leagues, you know?
Yeah, I mean, this was a day to with Caicedo struggling, I think, a little bit more. Again, over reliance on players. Lavia being out with a little bit of a knock. He posted on X and on other platforms that it was minor and that he should be back relatively quickly. Maybe he's back, hopefully, for the game against Servette and could give Caicedo a 90 minutes off. That would be pretty nice for him ahead of one more match before the international break. But yeah, again, there are a couple of questions around some players. Just can Nkunku getting rest was fantastic, considering that we do have multiple attacking options now. That was another good thing from Enzo Maresca to get an attacker an opportunity to rest in that moment. I mean, the Mykhailo Mudryk question is still has no answer at this point in the journey onto like what his future will be. I mean, I just wish and hope that we could, we're going to end up using a loan spot for Kepa. We'll talk about shortly. We're going to end we'd love to probably put Mykhailo Mudryk on a loan. I just don't know and don't foresee that happening. I think there's going to be this desire to persist and to try to make it work. And it feels like square peg, round hole.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing that I'm really worried about in this continued theme is the midfield, right? You just mentioned Caicedo. He's been the only one to play 3 straight matches, and he clearly looked out of it today. I don't think he had a great game. So that basically leaves you with him, Lavia, and Enzo for the whole season because you've loaned out your other options in Andre and Leslie. Dewsbury Hall has not shown that he's going to be able to do that deep lying role as much. Vega is still super young. So did we intentionally leave our midfield threadbare for no reason without a Conor Gallagher option? I mean, these are serious questions. And the other thing is just how do you pair them up, right? I made this point on Twitter that Caicedo and Enzo leave a lot to be desired, right? We've seen this multiple times. The partnership just hasn't yielded that much, and it creates an imbalance. Lavia and Caicedo is slightly better, but it's not super creative in terms of moving the ball forward. It's more of a short passing game sort of vibe. Lavia is not going to be dishing out assists like Enzo has. And Enzo and Lavia is too lightweight. Right, neither one of them are CDMs, and you could argue that both of them are pretty bad in defense and transition. So you're in a really weird spot with the midfield here, and right now I think it's our biggest area of concern because without someone like Connor, who's an established player who could come in and make those moves happen. I don't know what the right pairing is, and I don't know who gets sacrificed to make the thing work in the way that it's going to need to work, or if it's a 2-11 sort of vibe that I brought up the other day. I'm very, very, very concerned about this, and I'm hopeful that we don't have to go back into the market to get another option when I think maybe you could argue the profile of midfielder that we have is not suited to what we actually need, which is a proper number 6.
We will see where, and then I think that's a good moment then to talk about the fact that Chelsea do have business that they are either in the process of concluding or are about to finalize, and then also stuff that still has to get done. And at the very end of the weekend here, we got here we go on the Lukaku to Napoli deal from Fabrizio Romano and others, with the verbal agreement in place that Chelsea had accepted a 30 million euro fixed fee plus add-ons up to 15 million euros. So 45 million total potential package, potentially on a 3-year deal for Napoli, which ends a long saga that we are all ready for it to be over after the interview occurred. So this ends our rejoining of times with Romelu Lukaku, and we wish him nothing but time. Enjoy that time.
Good.
I don't know if there's any more to say there.
That's it.
I think the other thing to say is, so we know that Raheem Sterling is one of the players who, you saw his number on the pitch today. You did not see Raheem Sterling on the pitch or involved in the matchday squad as Chelsea looked to resolve his situation reports from the Telegraph on the fact that Chelsea are potentially considering Manchester United might be interested in a swap deal with Raheem Sterling and Jadon Sancho, which feels more like a favor to Man United than it does to Chelsea in that moment, because we've also seen the links to Aston Villa, which we know that Ben Jacobs, who joined us last week, talked about the fact that someone like Duran might be the solution. Chelsea were interested in him earlier in the window. If someone like Osimhen, who we talk about in a moment, might not be available, that could be another attacker that Chelsea could look to add to their ranks, so potentially of that striker profile. Or you also could consider the fact that maybe Joao Felix will be considered in that 9 position for this season, considering where we go. But any other thoughts on the Sterling conversation, Nicholas?
There are only a few number of clubs, unless he takes a significant wage cut, 60% wage cut. And even then, there's only a certain number of clubs that can handle his wages. I don't understand why Jadon Sancho is not wanted at United. I don't really know where he fits in at Chelsea. If he's competition for Madueke, if he's going to take over at the right wing, which feels tough after the performance today. But it would seem like we would get the younger, more exciting player out of that deal. He was in a Champions League final last year, after all. So I don't know. That whole thing seems super odd. I think the Chilwell thing is going to be really tough to resolve as well. And so again, as you are listening to this, there are 4 days left in the transfer window, guys. August 30th. That's the close. And the sporting directors have a shit ton of work to do, because these are not easy deals. Cool. You sold Lukaku. These are separate things to get Osimhen, right? So we've now done our part, and 45 million euros, not terrible return. I think pretty much getting what we want there. Now you have to go finish this thing out and make the squad into something that can compete this season.
Yeah, the Osimhen latest as of time of recording, which it would be Sunday, August 25th at 10:27 p.m. Eastern time, is that Napoli and Chelsea have made progress, according to Ben Jacobs, on a proposed deal. However, we will not do it, Chelsea, unless the terms become more favorable. And then Fabrizio Romano also reported that Al Ali indicated that they have submitted an initial bid to Napoli for Victor Osimhen in a package of excess of 65 million euros. So it's going to be very interesting to see where Napoli sit in this regard. They have been doing a lot of business over the last couple of days here to strengthen that squad for Antonio Conte, and it'll be really, really interesting to see if we end up with Victor Osimhen. Nick, if you were saying now, with all the knowledge we have, with 4 days in the future, it is, I think it'll be 6 p.m. Eastern time in the U.S., 5 p.m. Central time, when the window technically shuts. What do you think? Is Victor Osimhen a Chelsea player?
It's really hard for me to see this happening, to be honest with you. And that's not me being a downer. I think it's we know how it is to negotiate with Napoli.
Yeah.
We know that, we know De Laurentiis like the back of our hand. We once took their coach and their starting center midfielder in one window, and that was basically ripping away a father and son from a club like that. They are really, really difficult to work with. I would be really interested, because I am about continuation of progress for our players that we already have on the roster. I am interested in someone, now that Omar Odion is off to Porto in a 15 million euro deal. Oh my God, the shit I could say about that.
With one of the clubs owning 50% of the player and the other owning 50%, and something that would not be allowed in the Premier League.
Absolutely not. No, it's absolute just cooking the books to the ultimate extreme. But I would be more interested at this stage for someone like Duran, because I want Nico Jackson to continue to develop personally. I'm interested in Sancho if and only if Mudryk is the one to make way and not Madueke. I don't want to stifle the growth of the players who have shown us that they have either the potential or the real capability to influence where we finish in the league this year. And again, I'm really worried about the midfield. So if you're tripling down on offense to hope that, they can make up for the deficiencies in other areas, go get a CDM of some profile. Like, go make that move happen. Like, Ugarte's up for sale by PSG. Go make that move or something like that. So I'm just, I'm a little bit worried. There's so many weird and complicated deals that we have to do here that I do not think Osimhen will be a Chelsea player. I do think that there is a chance that someone like Duran comes in and it's a last minute deal. Like that's basically it.
It's probably a more interesting deal to me. I do think that also ticks the sporting director's boxes for a deal where we get a player like Raheem Sterling off the books and, can get his wages off the books. Because there's also, when you remove a player off the books and get their wages off the books, that helps you reduce your average weekly wage bill, which also makes you much more compliant from a profit and sustainability report perspective. And Duran, I mean, if you think about the end of last season, I mean, he didn't feature a ton. He had 23 matches played in only 3 starts at Aston Villa last season, 475 total minutes, but ended up with 5 goals. And so, like, there's something there. There's something interesting there in his attacking profile as a player that would be really, really interesting. As we wind up on the last and most interesting deal that seems ridiculous to make it happen, but this is where we're at in the year 2024 of Chelsea Football Club, where the deals are thrilling and excruciatingly disgusting at times. Kepa Arrizabalaga will get extended for a season so that he can go on loan to Bournemouth. According to Fabrizio Romano, that they are closing in. Bournemouth are closing in. The Cherries are going to get Kepa for a season. And if everything is all good, he will have his medical, it sounds like, on Monday. Crazy stuff.
I don't.
No words?
It is honestly, it makes you crazy that this is happening. Like, it's absolutely nuts. I don't understand how this could happen. This asset has so depreciated that he goes from being a Real Madrid loanee that doesn't play that well and gets benched for Andre Lunin to now being Bournemouth's keeper. Like, what the I was hoping we could get rid of him and Lukaku in one window. That would be a really good window. You get rid of both those contracts that were nuts. He is the cautionary tale for why you don't give 7-year contracts. That's it. So, I mean, it's also, there's Georgi Petrovic still out there. What's going to happen with him? Trev Chalobah, what's going to happen with him? Ben Chilwell, what's going to happen with him? What's Kellyman going to do this season? Name that we haven't spoke of in some time. What's Angelo going to do? Like, these are tricky deals. Carnes, no idea.
Nick, it sounds like you're saying that there's a lot of work to do between now, time of recording, and the end of the window, but we have to put our faith and trust, our hopes and our beliefs, our dreams, and everything we hold dear in the hands of our sporting directors and our organization to get it done, to move the players on, to bring the players in that we need, and to make sure that Enzo Maresca has as minimal problems as possible to consider as he looks to take this team forward, to build on the positive steps that Chelsea embarked on today and took today, beating Wolves 6-2. And again, if you look at the table, that means Chelsea are in 8th position right now on 3 points. That's right. We are smack dab in the middle once more. But, so we like it. We're dangerous from this position because he can go up. Because he can go up.
We're used to it. Yeah. So look, it's City, Brighton, Arsenal, Liverpool. Brighton is making me look like a fool right now for predicting them to go down. Tottenham in 5th on 4 points. Newcastle on 4 points. Forest on 4 points. Okay. Us, West Ham, Fulham, United, Villa, Brentford, Bournemouth. Or Villa, Brentford, those are all on 3, and then the rest are on 2, 1, 0. Ipswich, Wolves, Everton. Yikes. No bueno.
Everton look pretty bad. They look
they look pretty bad. They're going to make me look like a fool for not picking them to go down too. So yeah, there's just, it's a lot of mishmash in here. There's obviously now 36 match weeks to play. We are 2/38 of the way through, or 1/19 of the way through. So, we're in it now. But City, Arsenal, Liverpool all look pretty good.
Well, we have a ton more content coming your way over the rest of the week. We'll do another journalist special closer to a deadline day to keep you updated. Obviously, be coming back after the Servette match to give you some thoughts as well. Maybe a few more YouTube specials. And then also, once the transfer window is done, we have to come back with a little bit of grading from our perspective. How well did Chelsea do? How poorly did they do on some other things? We'll give you some thoughts and opinions there. But again, enjoy this. Celebrate it. Revel in it. Chelsea absolutely demolished Wolves, and we should be excited that there's something positive to celebrate. And at least you'll walk into the week with a Chelsea win, and we can't be disappointed until Thursday afternoon. So let that carry you forward all the way till nearly the end of the week, when Chelsea hopefully get the business done and punch their ticket into the group stages of the Europa Conference League. That's going to do it for this episode. So thank you so much for listening and watching. Join us on YouTube. If you haven't been there before, subscribe, like the videos. Makes us feel good. Leave 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and get involved in our wonderful Discord community if you can. But until next time, Chelsea fans, you know what to do. Keep the blue flag flying high.